Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 544 of the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is Linux in the Ham Shack, and this is our post-Hamvention short topics episode, so thanks for joining us. We do have some folks attending live, listening to us in Discord, so if you want to listen to us live, that's how you do that. And before we jump into our hopefully short, we should be able to make it pretty short this time around, Hamvention wrap up and short topics for tonight, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so let's move into our segment one lead topic, which we almost never have, but we have one now because we're going to talk about Hamvention 2024. And I'm going to say that except for about a 4% increase in attendance this year, it was exactly the same as last year. So now we can move on. So. No. We probably should talk a little bit about it. As all Hamventions have been since the beginning of us going to Hamvention, I always enjoy when people stop by the booth and come to talk to us. It makes my day more than you might know. And even though by sometime around 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, I can barely talk anymore, I enjoy it quite a bit. I think we've kind of got the booth to where we want it to be. I'm going to wait for the other co-hosts to say if there were any issues with that, but I kind of like it. It's really easy for me to load and unload at this point. It's compact. And it still allows us to bring all of the stuff that we bring and to have a decent display. I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but at least one or two people came by and said that I think it was when we were talking to Tom and his friend, they really liked the fact that it sort of captures your attention when you're walking around. So that's definitely what we're going for. And I like it. So does anybody else want to comment on the booth arrangement? Or are we going to fix anything for next year? Or are we going to leave it so that I can actually load it in the car?
This is our second year for having the booth set up that way.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, okay.
Well, 2 years is enough time to figure out if there's something you don't like about it. So,
well, no, I like it, so I can stay head back over behind Bill, and I'm okay.
I feel like Bill has a butt.
Yeah, she stares at my butt the whole time. That's what
there you go.
No, I like the layout. I like the screens. I think a couple of times, more than a couple of times, people ask what we're doing there and stuff like that. And, not in a sense of a way like you're not supposed to be here, but like, in a sense that they really don't know what we're there for. But, even when we had a banner and everything else, we still got the same question. So I don't think that would affect anything. But we don't have on the screens often enough, the sort of bannerish material. I tried to do that on the PowerPoint to get it to roll around and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know if we need that to be up more often than having just the screen sharing and then just try to explain everything, or if it would be too self-explanatory and people wouldn't ask questions.
Well, do you think the screen is big enough to have like a PowerPoint running as part of the screen and still have some real estate left for demo?
Yeah, I don't know. What were you going to say, Cheryl?
I would say about 25% of the people that actually stop by the booth and ask basically their question is, what are you selling? That is usually how their question is phrased. Another 50% of the people that stop by are listeners. And the other 25% are like, oh, you guys are doing a podcast, and that's when, we got to pop in and say, yeah, come listen to us. You can learn about Linux. You can listen, learn about how Linux works with ham radio, blah, 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 blah. I personally, if I was wandering around a Hamvention, I would want to see maybe like every third slide when it was going through the PowerPoint thing saying, hi, we're Linux in the Ham Shack, we're a podcast. Because there really wasn't a lot of information. There were things like FLDigi and stuff up on the screen, but there wasn't a lot of telling people what we actually did.
No, I sort of get that, but I kind of feel like that's what we're there for.
Well, it is, but if you're just out walking around and you walk by a booth and you see things like, FLDigi or whatever up on the screen, you're going to be like, oh, whatever, it's some sort of software thing. Instead of going, oh, well, what do you guys do? So, maybe have something, and we do have other things in the booth, like the sign with the QR code to, get information about the website. And it actually, the logo is on that information, on those signs. But those are signs on, 8 by 10 pieces of paper, basically. So, I don't know if there's any way to basically have it.
There's of course there's a way.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I know. Yeah. But you also want the software. You want people to be able to see, oh, there's logging software, there's satellite tracking software, whatever. You want that up there. So you're like, So
yeah. Well, again, that presentation I would happen to use that we kind of slid in and kind of ran on my screen for time to time there was actually part of my talk that I was going to give at Linux Fest Northwest. So it really wasn't designed to be kind of a scroller for the booth.
Right.
But I get exactly what you're saying. We can conform it a little bit better for the booth and maybe have it a little higher rotation on the information side of things. And I would include ensuring that the logo's on every page and that we have a QR code, landing on the website on every page as well. That way, if somebody's just seeing that, walking by, they can just snap the picture on the screen or whatever, and they would get the QR code. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I'll definitely work on a decent PowerPoint that we can use, or whatever, Office Point, whatever we call it.
Cool.
Presentation. Yeah, I actually have the one that I had that I can just send to you, so you have something to work off of if you want to build a better one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I probably have the one that we actually did for Hamvention a few years ago as well, which I think we based it off that one too, right? Because we had our main Patreons and stuff like that were on there and everything else. So, but yeah, we should probably definitely take that as an action item for next year to have more of that informational scroller available when not directly demoing something.
Yeah, for sure. And we can always split it up where we rotate it, have some demo for a while, run the presentation for a while, so on and so forth. One thing I will say is in going to conferences for many years, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, is that if it doesn't matter for some people. Like if they walk by a booth and they see software on the screen and they're not interested, they're just not going to stop. I mean, nothing you do is going to tweak their interest. And you can see those people when they walk by. It's like they glance over, they see something like software, and then they move on. Because they're not there for that. They're there for the forums or the boat anchors or the Bengali keys or whatever it is. And that's they're just hitting the things they want, and they don't worry about things that they're not interested even tangentially. So I think we're reasonably set up to pull in people who may be able to divert from their interests and might check out something new. And of course, our loyal listeners will always stop and whatnot. So we're not going to get everybody no matter what we do.
Now, the other item that we kind of talked about towards the end was the location. So, and I think there would be some advantage to us moving around occasionally, just because I think Hamvention is to the point now that people are pretty much familiar where stuff is, or they're traveling with people that have been there before and they know where stuff is, and they sort of don't go around to everything all the time. And this might have been some of the impact that we saw on late Saturday afternoon where, it was very, very light traffic. And we kind of got into that discussion of, should we move the booth out of building 5 and go explore what life is like in building 1, 2, or 3 in the larger buildings?
The bad thing about building 5 is it's extremely noisy in there because the ceilings are so low.
And I definitely do want to explore moving to one of the larger buildings. I do think we need to move at least, once or twice or something like that. And I think you're speaking to the same thing I was speaking to, is that people are kind of know where stuff is and they're set in what they want to see. And so they only hang out in the places where like the large vendors are and stuff like that. So if we could get into building 1, 2, or 3 and be near some of those places that everybody goes to, that would be great. I don't know what kind of availability we're going to see. I'm definitely going to, be in touch with the inside exhibit coordinator and so forth to see if we can move around somewhere for next year. I mean, building 2 would be ideal because that means the K2BSA and us would be in the same building, which would be great.
Yeah, it would definitely make things convenient for me.
But yeah, I mean, even if we were in, you're kind of in the middle of building 2. So even if we were on like the inside edges of building 1 or building 3, it would still make it way more convenient. So
yeah, and our big limitation is that we want an edge piece that we can, pull off the side from. So
yeah, it does make it a little more inviting, and it's easier for Cheryl to get in and out of the booth and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to explore our options.
Yeah, we could always move right back next door to our favorite logging software.
Don't they pretty well take up that whole cubicle area or cubby hole up there in the front of that one building?
I don't know if they have all 3 or not up there.
I think they might.
Because that's 3 spots. So, let's see. Ham Radio Deluxe.
Just as a quick aside, have you used Ham Radio Deluxe lately? Because I have.
Oh, no, I have not. Oh, yeah, they have all 3 booths. They do have all 3 booths.
Yeah, I downloaded the trial version of Ham Radio Deluxe. I don't remember what version it was. It was probably 3 or 4 months ago. And yeah. I found the software basically unusable. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I'm sort of set in the workflow of, using particular applications for a particular purpose and so on and so forth. But I had a hard time just looking, like figuring out how to tune my rig or, where's the logger or how do I get the cluster client or anything like that. Nothing about it seemed particularly intuitive to me. And I gave up after about 4 days of screwing with it. So, I mean, I wasn't going to buy it anyway. But, at least if it was intuitive and functional, I could have said something nice about it. But I literally had trouble using it.
Yeah, I'll have to try it. I don't know. I can't cast an opinion based upon your trial there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want you to. I would love to have you download it, the free trial and mess around with it for a little bit and see if it's just me. I mean, does it run on Linux? I'm perfectly willing to say the problem is me, like because I have a long-standing workflow, and maybe something that's intuitive to somebody else just isn't intuitive to me. And
you do show a pattern of failing to run things on Windows.
What are you saying?
Just saying.
All right, enough about HRD. Yeah, so we are talking about the idea of moving out of our booth. I mean, we have been in that same booth for as long as the Hamvention has been in Xenia. When we were at the Hera Arena, we did move around some. Yeah. We were definitely in different places. We were in the North Hall for a while, and then we were like way out by the loading dock in the North Hall once. Then we were sort of by the ramp going up to the food service. And then once or twice we were even out in East Hall. So we're not, it's not unknown to us to move around. And I think it probably is worth our time to try and figure out somewhere else to be. So we'll definitely.
So if you know a spot that we should move into because the vendor probably won't be there next year, send us a note.
Yeah, absolutely. That would help out a lot.
Because I mean, I'm definitely looking around and looking at the list and the map and stuff like that. So the only thing I think of in that very front spot there by Ham Radio Deluxe, in order to kick a dead horse, is the MMDVM was there, and so was I think it was QRP Works was there, taking up those 2 booths. Yeah, MFJ, I think their spot got taken over by, I think Tower Electronics and Quicksilver Radio both had huge spots in Building 3. And if I remember correctly, MFJ was over there. But I could be wrong. They might have been in Building 1. But anyway, yeah, I think we just need to find a spot, or maybe we can just ask them for just a random spot and just tell them our conditions. We need, to definitely be able to have at least, an edge where we have the hallway available to us to knock a side out.
Right, just something where one side doesn't have anything, whether it's against a door or part of the building where there's no booth or something like that. Because there is some space, some empty space in the bigger buildings.
In the bigger buildings, some of those doors are like they actually use them as traffic, so we're not going to be able to sit sort of like we do on this double door and take some space. That would be my only concern in the other buildings.
Right. Yeah, so as far as being next to Workbench or Halibut or anything like that, unfortunately, the way it works is if you're in a booth, you have dibs on that booth, and you don't really, unless you're kind of like, in the ear of the coordinators for the inside exhibits, you don't really know what's available and when. So we'll do what we can for sure, but I guess we'll find out where we end up next year. Maybe back in good old 5004. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Halibut was back in the corner there in Building 3.
Maybe we could get, who is the one that I talked to there at the end? He always comes by. Ham Radio, they're there in the very outside edge of Building 3. Cheryl told me to go talk to them.
Ham Source?
Oh, yeah, Ham Source.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wonder if we might, if there's going to be any space over there. But whatever. We don't have to beat this horse into the ground yet again.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like those edges of the Building 3 and Building 1 that are kind of like segmented off. I think those are kind of like our building where they kind of get really loud.
They get loud. There's not a whole lot of traffic in them.
And
because it's too narrow.
Pretty narrow, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to do what we can.
We go big or go home, right?
Exactly.
Tenure come into play or just money? No, the biggest thing is tenure. For us anyway, the money's not an issue. And for the KTBSA, it's not an issue either, no matter where we are. But the tenure is why it's hard to move around.
Yeah, if you kind of get a first right of refusal for your spot. So if you're not coming back, then your spot is up. And unless you've specifically asked to be able to move, then you got to look for somebody else who didn't come. So the booth that we're talking about next to the K2BSA last year was like the RV club. That like RV Ham Radio Club or something like that. This year it was the W5YI. Yeah, sorry, I never get that one right. W5YI licensing group, and I spoke to them after on Sunday as they were packing up, and they're definitely interested in having that spot back, which would not be ideal for us, but would be ideal to have for us. We want to expand the K2BSA booth to 2 booths, see if they'll do that, and then we'll just like, oh no, we're splitting it.
Yeah. Russ probably needs to start building a fire under somebody now.
Oh, I will. I'll be emailing whoever the current coordinator is very soon. So I'll make sure I'll make our desires are known. So
you might put a bug in Brian Markland's ear too, because
if he's associated with it at all, I definitely will.
Well, he was the vice president or something this year, so I don't know what the deal was with him, but
yeah, we're still using the login that he set up for us way back in the day.
Way back when, yeah.
All right. So anyway, the event was good. We had a great time. Lots of people stopped by the booth. Friday for me was better than Saturday. I've noticed that in Xenia that Friday seems to be better for us. But we had good traffic, and we want to thank everybody who stopped by the booth and left us a donation. We actually ran out of most everything, so that was great. I don't know what we're going to be bringing next year. We'll definitely have the USB sticks. I think the way we've done it this time, using the Ventoy and having the multiple distros on there, makes them more attractive. And if we ever get our 2404 builds to work properly, that'll be even better. But yeah, overall, I thought it went really well. I'm definitely already looking forward to Hamvention 2025. So, and if I understand correctly, we're already working on the hotel to make sure we're booked in the hotel, even though they can't book us yet because they can only do like 9 months out or something. But yeah, things are in the works to make sure that we are there. So, anything else anybody wants to interject about Hamvention?
I wish it wasn't so rainy and humid.
Where do we all stay? Promise I won't stalk you. Oh, I really don't care because honestly, you have to kind of go out of your way to stalk us. So I don't think anyone's going to bother. But we're out on Miami. Is it Miamisburg?
It's
Highway?
Miamisburg at the Spring Hill Suites.
Yeah,
no, it's
Springboro Pike. Yeah,
yeah.
The Spring Hill and Springboro Pike. That's where we've been staying.
And yeah, the actual city is listed as Dayton, but it's out in Miamisburg. So
yep. Yeah, we had some fellow Hamventioners stay out there for a couple of years. Notably, Ham Talk Live's Neil was there, but now he's with the rest of the group that stays wherever they stay. Bill knows where they stay. I don't know where they stay. I don't keep track of that stuff. So
yeah, they're closer to the Hope Hotel where all the DX dinners and all the other events and stuff like that are occurring at this point. So
yeah,
and we're generally further away from that. So. We tend not to attend any of those events, much like we got invited to go out and we were like, it's kind of a drive. We're all tired. So,
we had to get packed. So.
Yeah. Because I got to tell you, I'm not, when my alarm goes up at 6:30 in the morning on Hamvention mornings, I'm like, for about the first 3 minutes, I'm like, you all can go to hell. I'm not even getting up at this point.
Yeah, and Bill and I have already been up for an hour or so at that point.
Yeah,
we're usually chatty before you wake up. So.
Oh yeah, well no, I kind of hear you, but I try and stay asleep as long as I can because if I'm up before 10 o'clock, it's really early. So. I usually drag myself out of bed, and I'm usually fairly bright-eyed and bushy-tailed by the time the gates open. But what happens is by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, I am just wiped, and I really do not want to participate in the after party type stuff. But maybe I should work on that. Just try and change my circadian rhythm a couple of weeks before the show next time, so be more inclined to be sociable. But
well, the bad thing about stuff going on Saturday night is, since we have to check out of the hotel at 6:30 on Sunday morning, and we've got to get back to the hotel, get our crap packed, get cars loaded, so, and you guys are still loading the cars at like 9 o'clock Saturday night, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get out of the hotel in the morning. And then, of course, we have to pack up the booth, which takes, a solid hour of lugging stuff around. And then after that, we're facing, at least for us, we're facing a 10-hour drive. And, Bill's driving some ridiculous distance. So,
well, it depends on whether he has to drive to Washington, D.C., pick up a car, and then have a blazing inferno on his trailer on the way back.
Yeah. It's quite the exciting adventure on the way back, but I made it. I said I'd get back by Tuesday. I was back by Tuesday, so
probably a little later than you thought you were going to be, but you were back on Tuesday. So.
Yeah,
and the car is still in one piece.
Yep. Well, it's currently being disassembled right now, so it's not in my garage. That's all I'm happy about.
The title of Bill's first punk album is going to be U-Haul Fireball. So
yeah, U-Haul Fireball. That's
all right. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming by, and also super big thanks to Darren since he's here. We already did thank him, but I'll thank him publicly for his QSL cards. We'll just leave it at that. Thanks for the QSL card. We all enjoyed it mightily.
Yeah, some more than others.
All right, very good. All right, so let's get into some stories, and we're going to move into amateur radio, our first non-lead topic segment for tonight. And because we had a little bit to say about Hamvention, we're going to keep the stories kind of short and to the point. But let's see. Since we're talking about Hamvention, I guess we'll let Bill talk a little bit more about Hamvention.
That's right. We already have the attendance numbers are out. And as Russ had alluded to, there's a slight bump in percentage. And we have the Hamvention on the Hamvention website. It says the Hamvention General Chairman, Jim Storms, is proud to announce the 2024 event had a record-setting official attendance of 35,877. We thank everyone that attended and hope you had a wonderful time. Friday morning's rain appeared to not put a damper on attendance. Saturday and Sunday weather was outstanding. And there was a lot of activity all across the event. People attended from all around the world and others from close by. You are the ones why we work to provide this event. Okay. Hopefully you found the hardware, software, and forums you desire. Again, I want to thank my hardworking committee chairs and their assistant chairs, along with the approximately 700 volunteers. There are several functions that occur before and after the show. However, a large number of work during the show for a minimum of 6 hours, and some individuals work much more than that. In some cases, they work so much that they do not have a chance to see much of the event. That sounds familiar. I am especially appreciative of those efforts. We thank the American Radio Relay League for holding their national convention in conjunction with the Hamvention. And of course, that came from the Hamvention page.
And I'm going to give a shout out to someone who's never going to hear it, but I feel like it needs to be said. The person who has been at Hamvention for as long as it's, been Hamvention. She's a woman who works the vendor gate, and she is always extremely happy and extremely enthusiastic. And I always look for her every time we go because she cheers up our day. So I don't know if she works for, I don't know who she works for, but it's clear when she's not there. Let's put it that way. So, thanks for brightening everybody's day and for your enthusiasm, whoever you are. Maybe someday we'll stop and find out. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The little lady. Yeah. She's nice.
Oh yeah. She's fantastic. I don't even know who she is, but she's great. So. All right. Well, with that, we can finally get away from Hamvention until 2025, and then we'll start talking about it all over again. So, speaking of another organization that has had some problems lately, problems that originated during Hamvention, the ARRL has suffered a service disruption, and it is continuing. It was originally reported on the 16th of May. That was during some, I don't know, big ham radio event that it's continuing. As of 5/22, they're continuing to address a serious incident involving access to their networks and systems. Several services, such as Logbook of the World and the ARRL Learning Center, were affected. They've heard from many Logbook of the World users asking about the status of the service and its data. It's not a Logbook of the World server issue, and Logbook of the World data is secure. So that's good to know, I guess. Although if somebody wants my log data, it's out there. Our editorial,
confirm all my QSLs.
Yeah, please do. Pay the money for getting those foreign ones too.
Yeah.
Our editorial and production team is preparing the July issue of QST Magazine, which is still going to press. It may be delivered a few days late to members who receive print subscriptions. I thought those were gone.
I still have them.
Oh, okay. The digital edition should be published on time. We appreciate your continued patience as our staff and others work tirelessly to restore affected systems. Story will be updated with new developments while they work on getting unhacked. And that story, of course, came from the ARRL, so you can read the whole thing over there. I didn't know if we were going to touch on that story because I'm pretty sure it's well known at this point, but probably worth mentioning. So.
Well, I just checked today and it's still not working, so no update either. So that was obviously the 22nd, and we're recording this on the 26th. So well, maybe we'll get an update after the Memorial Day that says we're still working on it.
They're working tirelessly, which means they can't be bothered to post updates or something. So anyway, let's talk about the llama's ass.
Winamp. It really kicks the llama's ass. Anyway, that's
whips the llama's ass.
Whips. Sorry, kicks. That's so funny. Whips. I almost said you were supposed to have the sound effect ready for us, and
I do not have the sound effect. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway,
I can put it in post though. We can make it sound like we did.
Yeah.
It's probably copyrighted. I'll probably get a strike for it.
Yeah. Probably let's hold off on that. Good thing I said kicks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Winamp goes open source soonish. Winamp has announced that on the 24th of September 2024, the application source code will be open to developers worldwide. Winamp will open its code for the player used on Windows, enabling the entire community to participate in its development. This is an invitation to global collaboration where developers worldwide can contribute their expertise, ideas, and passion to help this iconic software evolve. Winamp has become much more than just a music player. It embodies a unique digital culture, aesthetic, and user experience. Okay. I mean, it looks just like XMMS. Anyway, with this initiative to open the source code, Winamp is taking the next step in its history, allowing its users to contribute directly to improving the product. Quote, this is a decision that will delight millions of users around the world. Really? Our focus will be on the new mobile players and other platforms. We will be releasing a new mobile player at the beginning of July. Still, we don't want to forget the tens of millions of users who use the software on Windows and will benefit from thousands of developers' experience and creativity. Winamp will remain the owner of the software and will decide on the innovations made in the official version. Interesting. Explains Alexander Sabujan, CEO of Winamp. Interested developers can now make themselves known at the following address: aboutwinamp.com/free-llama. So yeah, open but not free. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the final license actually is. And again, like I alluded to, we've obviously had XMMS for almost as long as we've had Winamp, if not the same amount of time or before. And I always used to remember flipping back and forth between the systems when I had Windows and I had Linux and stuff like that. And I felt that they were equivalent in capabilities and everything else. But I always appreciated Winamp just because, Winamp.
So I'm wondering if we're going to have a Linamp.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, the thing is, I mean, if they're making it open source, the idea being that it becomes, cross-platform.
Depends on the license, really.
Well, it does. I mean, it's probably not going to go MIT, but who knows? But, the only thing I see is that there's win in the name. Winamp. So
yeah.
I guess we'll see where it goes. It'll be interesting. Every comment I saw about this story was like, thanks, 2008.
Yeah.
It's like, what's taking you so long to open source this project? I mean, I stopped using Winamp. I don't honestly remember the last time I used Winamp. I've been using VLC for ever and ever and ever and ever for a media player. So
yeah, I'm thinking it was like Windows 98 days, Windows XP maybe, but definitely not after XP.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have the catchiest tagline in the history of software, but
well, absolutely.
So, do we have the intro? Let's see. I'll play it, and then if it's copyrighted, I'll just take it out later. So,
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
There you go. Not the best fidelity version of that, but it's okay.
Oh, good. Maybe no one will care then. All right.
It's short, right? It doesn't count.
Right. I am curious to see if it turns into something, because I wouldn't mind a decent, media player. I mean, I tend to use my online solution Plex at this point to do any kind of media anything anymore. But, I wouldn't be averse, particularly in the world of streaming, if somebody would, if it's for like M3U files and stuff like that, I wouldn't balk at using Winamp. So I guess we'll see where it goes. And to the extent that we're talking about software, let's talk about some more software. This is about Rufus, which is a ISO burning utility. Rufus, a popular open source tool for making bootable USB drives on Windows, just released an update that includes a fix. Why is fix in quotes? Did they not fix it? A fix for working with Ubuntu 24.04. This sounds like a workaround, not a fix. 2404 LTS ISOs, a truly versatile tool. Rufus is able to create bootable Windows installers from ISO files and disk images, as well as Linux installers, and more pertinent to this news, persistent Ubuntu. Oh, yes, persistent. We haven't talked about that in a little while. Linux Mint and Debian USB installers. Rufus 4.5 released this week includes support for persistence in Ubuntu 2404 LTS. Additionally, this update also fixes issues when creating persistent Linux Mint 21.x USB ISOs 2. Creating persistent Ubuntu USB sticks in Rufus isn't new. The feature debuted in 2019, but its devs often have to play catch-up as distros rename, update, or alter the various files needed to enable this feature. So there you go. I wonder when we're going to have to talk about persistent OSs again. Hopefully never. But
well, I mean, we just talked about the other ones. The what was that? The Fedora Onyx or something like that.
Right, the immutables. Yeah,
the immutable ones. Yeah. So the persistence ones are basically well, almost similar, right? And to some extent, although, they do just run on the thumb drive, which means that your OS could be destroyed at any second based upon, whatever the lifespan of your USB drive that you probably bought off of
Amazon from China, which means
Alibaba or AliExpress, and then it's going to be garbage and won't last for 5
From
boots.
what I've seen, it's about 1 minute and 37 seconds. It's like just after you've written the ISO, it'll go corrupt. So
the least reliable form next to it, like an SD card. I don't know, but people do it. I mean, it's fun to have. You can have a distribution on the go if you want it to be persistent. I mean, other than that, you can just have a live disk and not have any logins and just do everything incognito style and destroy style.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna have a tiny little discussion with you. For our listeners' benefit, hopefully. I've been following this whole thing about the people on Mastodon complaining about various things, security-related issues, personal information security, that kind of stuff. And I made the declaration over there because somebody asked that I have sort of divested ourselves of streaming except for using Discord. And then I got flack from, well, I wouldn't call it flack. I got a curious comment, I guess, from the guy, the ham that puts out, what is it, Foundations of Linux podcast? Is that right?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay. He's an Aussie. His name is Ono.
Oh, yeah.
He puts out Foundations of Linux, I think. And, I mentioned the fact that we only record live on Discord, and he's like, that sounds like a curious choice for a podcast that espouses open source. And, I put together a quick response to that, but this is taking way longer than I thought. But let me flesh this out.
So your response is more than just 2 words. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what I was thinking is, just mentioning about this show in general is like, yes, we espouse open source software and hardware, like in every possible way that it can be used. But I don't think we have ever once said that you can never use something that's closed sourced or not free or something like that, because sometimes the only software that does what you want isn't any of those things. There are practical considerations for using Windows, like if you have to use it for work, stuff like that. And I don't think that necessarily invalidates being pro open source. And I basically said that. And to that end, I have looked for alternatives to Discord that are open source. There is one. Apparently, there's a project that reverse engineered Discord and put it out as an open source project. It's called Spacebar. I am looking at Spacebar, but there's a couple of other considerations too, in that Discord creates established communities. It's really easy for people to get with other people because it's popular, it's well known. And if we decided to pull up roots and move over to Spacebar, we might lose listeners, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of considerations, I guess, is where I'm going with this. This whole thing started because one of our listeners, one who had actually been on Discord, decided to leave Discord. And I don't want to say who that is because it's kind of irrelevant. But due to that fact, I started looking through all of Discord's privacy policies, terms of service, blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't find anything particularly egregious in there, and I was wondering if you have done the same, and if I'm just missing something, because they're really down on Discord. And my issue is that if you're doing something that's in the social media space, you pretty much have to assume that there is no expectation of privacy. So people who are worried about their information being divulged because they're part of social media, I think you can just never be part of social media because it's going to be used somehow. So I just take the stance that I don't do it. I don't put anything in social media that I wouldn't want somebody to have, and just go with it, assuming no privacy. So
right. I mean, yeah, I see what, I mean, this goes into the discussion of like, you know, when you're not the consumer, you're the product kind of deal. And, you know, Discord kind of fits that model. You know, you don't pay for it. So what are they getting out of you being part of the product? And, you know, yeah, it could be your email address and that stuff. But I mean, arguably everything's the same when it comes to that anyway. The reason why I think that we use Discord as opposed to other things has a little bit to do with more of discoverability and ease of accessibility. Where there are multiple ham radio communities that, you know, we're actually on, you know, IRC and stuff like that, more open products. And then once this came out, this was a real easy way to get people that could not make the jump into, you know, IRC land or some other, like, you know, God, what was some of the other products, Element and stuff like that.
Yeah, Matrix is one that's
Matrix,
really hard to get into. So yeah,
I mean, you know, we could go through the trouble of setting all that up and infrastructure, but then you'd have to maintain your own client and everything else. There are things moving along quite rapidly in the podcasting 2.0 area that would allow us, if our user base had like modern podcast apps, to get live feeds directly when we go live, and could socially talk through, you know, mechanism of boosting in with you know, boostograms and stuff like that with Satoshis. You know, there are other methods and ways we can do that, you know, still at some point you're still going to be sharing your information. So we'll never get rid of that. But yeah, I don't think using Discord is a totally egregious thing. The product, the terms of service are only horrible for people that write plugins and mods and stuff like that. We've had the same experience of our mods working and then not working and stuff like that. And I think that's more of the, you know, probably the only thing that I've ever had issues with Discord on. I'm sure it's a, you know, ticking time bomb with finding revenue and stuff like that to maintain it. So I'm sure at some point it will just die on its own and we won't have to worry about it anymore. But yeah, I think anybody that says that, oh, you can't do it because it's, you know, it's like all the other free services, but they probably, you know, emailed you with a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or some other free service that they're a product on as well. Yeah, I seriously doubt that they, you know, they are that concerned when it comes to certain free things that they enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be security and privacy concerns with any product. I have to look at the practical side of it for us. Everything that we need to do that is the workflow for this show is handled by Discord and handled very well. There's nothing, I don't put anything on Discord that I'm worried about, you know, people having access to. I think that's the mindset you have to be in. And, you know, the Foundations of Linux podcast is on YouTube. And I think YouTube has some of the most onerous.
Yeah, they own your content.
Yeah. I mean, Discord,
and he uses Groups.io too. So Groups.io is another thing that if he's not paying for it, he's the product. So
right, absolutely.
Good on him.
I know. And Bill says outreach on non-free services is okay due to network effects. Yeah. I mean, as I think I said in my post, that basically in a perfect world, there would be an open source solution like Discord that we could use in its place. But since there isn't, I mean, we kind of have to go with what we've got. And Anu himself actually publishes on YouTube. So, you know, you got to deal with that. And, you know, it's not all good. I mean, I wish that the person who this all sort of stemmed out from would just create like a secondary bogus account with just a free Gmail account and come on, because all they're going to be doing is listening to the podcast live and posting some general comments in in the chat. And so you're not going to be giving up a lot doing that, even though the solution isn't open source. And actually parts of Discord are open source. They leverage open source software as well as closed source. So, yeah, it's a bunch of muddy water, and I don't want to keep beating the dead horse, but I thought it was worth at least exploring a little bit. And I don't think we're out of bounds, or I guess I'm going to say I'm out of bounds because I'm the one who made the decision to divest ourselves of other ways of streaming the show other than using Discord.
Well, nobody was using it. So, we had the IceCast stream.
The IceCast stream, nobody was listening to it. They all come to Discord. So
yeah,
it is what it is. We may have made our own bet in that regard. But it is what it is. Like I said, if Spacebar comes into its own and it works and functions like they say it will with plugins that work with Discord and stuff like that, if it's a true reverse engineer and we're able to switch to it and do the things we do on Discord using it, I have no problem switching. Mm-hmm. But, as it is, this is the platform we're going to use. If you have issues with their terms of service or security policy, then by all means don't use them. Just listen to the podcast after the fact. I host the service that publishes the files for the podcast, so it's as open, I guess, as it can be. The episodes are available on archive.org, so you can get to them in lots of open source ways without compromising your privacy and all that. So you do what you got to do. And I think we're going to do what we got to do.
Yeah, and we should probably make it clear too. We're advocates. We're not zealots.
Well,
you are recording on a Mac. You are not a zealot.
No. I agree with you.
I'm on a Windows box right now because I switch back and forth depending upon which box I feel like running on. So this one actually is Windows 11, so it runs just fine. Discord and recording.
Right, absolutely. And like I said, in a perfect world, if we had all the time there was in the world to create open source versions of all of the stuff that we use and do, then we could certainly do that. But the world is not a perfect place. And sometimes you just have to sacrifice a little bit of your idealism for practicality. And I just hope, that we only sacrifice what we really need to, for practicality and keep our idealism as whole as possible. So, okay, well, that's that. So I guess we're down to our social media stuff. So I guess I'll run through the list here real quick so we can wrap up the show. And you can, I still see people typing, so you can hit me if people are commenting. So,
okay.
But we do have some new subscribers, and I think at least one of these may have come out of Hamvention, so that's great. We have John Strunk and William Strand on Facebook. John Strunk also joined us over there. On X, yeah, speaking of privacy concerns, KQ4MII, SP5IDC, Gambus Khan, N9OL, and W6MSU over on the X. Nobody on Instagram. On Mastodon, we had at Alario, at Cellorm, at Elhidi, at Waterfordham, at Eric Normando, at K0EB. What took you so long, Rich? And at KO6AGA. On YouTube, we had Kevin Williams and Tulio Silva 1. Join us there. And on Discord, we had Josh, John, KC5NGX, Machuva, Chris B, Tom Bossatasa, M6OEF, Simon from London, KD0TIG, and J Lee, KC0HWA. On the mailing list, we had Bicho Desierto. Join us over there. And in the live chat tonight, we had Steve KJ5T, John W5AJQ. Sorry, Jonathan. Maybe you don't like the shortened form. I have issues with that because my name is John too, but it's actually John, John, not a short form of Jonathan. So I'm one of the few in that world. We also had, where did I stop? Darren VK60K.
John.
Yeah. So Darren VK60K, Bill N3AJ, Ted WA0EIR, John K1BTZ, Tony K4XSS, and Niemendem, which we
Who
don't
just
have a
joined.
call sign. Well, good. He got in under the wire. So, and he's got the purple hat logo. So, all right. So, do we have any other comments? Let's see.
Not really.
No, okay. All right. In that case, we're going to go ahead and wind up this episode. Thanks, everybody, for listening and going through my editorializing about security and privacy and all that kind of BS and all our random talk about Hamvention. But we did try and throw in some content there, so I hope everybody appreciated it. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by at Hamvention. If you were among those that did, we really appreciated it. The donations that we received, of course, go straight into the fund for next year. And like I said, based on our current TAC with monthly donations and whatnot, I think the age of the GoFundMe is over. I think we are self-sustaining at this point, so we really appreciate that and really thank everybody for helping to support the show in that way. It really helps out, and it keeps us going. It keeps our community support active. And we look forward to seeing everybody in 2025. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. And since Cheryl is making some pulled chicken pizza, I guess I'll sign off for her. She's W5MOO. And this has been episode number 544 of Linux in the Ham Shack. We'll catch you all in a week. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.